One thing to understand when it comes to um, spousal benefits. So let's kind of go back to the spousal benefit is, can you file for your spousal benefit? Um, and specifically, we get this question because there used to be a lot you could do with filing for spousal and switching back to your own and maximizing benefits. But really, that was all cleaned up about a decade ago. Now you can only do this. You can only file for your Social Security at 62 and switch to spousal benefits later. You cannot file for spousal benefits and switch to your own later. There's only one direction this can go. You could file for your benefits at 62 and switch to spousal benefits later only if your spouse is not receiving retirement benefits. Okay. If your spouse is receiving retirement benefits, then you're claimed as deemed filing. Okay. So if it's the case where your spouse is not receiving benefits, you can claim your own Social Security starting at 62 and make the switch to spousal when your husband or wife files, right? Social Security is not going to pay the sum of those two. They're going to pay the greater of the two benefits. All right. But again, if your spouse is already working and you go and apply um, for the for your benefits, they're already going to deem you as filing, and they're going to give you the higher of the two benefits right away. You can't do a switch and let yours grow out or let your spousal grow out. Okay. So this is a little complicated. It doesn't really play into a lot of situations anymore, but it's like the only rule that still is there of switching benefits um, between your benefit and switching that for spousal. Okay. Um, and we created a little chart to kind of go with this, but just wanted to just kind of run by the exceptions to deemed filing. So if your spouse is already filing, there's some exceptions, um, which was you were born before 1954, you're caring for a child that's under 16, or you're eligible for Social Security disability benefits. That would trump that deemed filing rule if your spouse already had received benefits from being able to switch from your own to spousal. So that one's always a little confusing. And so what we try to do is put together a chart to kind of sum up some of the strategies that we talked about. Well, first strategy was we talked about starting spousal Social Security as early as 62 with a 30% penalty. That's what's shown here, right? Then we are also showing you, right, when John starts his Social Security at 70, that's a higher amount. Okay. Now, Joyce collects a 35% surviving benefit, not surviving, sorry, spousal. That should be spousal in this case. And she switches to the spousal. So remember, you could start your own. And in this case, she started her own and she's getting $630, which is the 30% penalty off to the 900. But then she starts getting the spousal because it is higher than her own. So again, you could go from your own to spousal. Okay, as long as your spouse isn't drawing social yet, and John wasn't at the time that she started her own. But once he started his, then that is when you're deemed filing for spousal as well. And then you would be lifted up to the higher benefit. So in this case, that's what happened. Now, in the last case here, this is when John dies. Joyce will get the higher of the two of her own or John's Social Security benefit, which in this case is 2480. So he increased his survivor benefit by waiting to draw that at 70 for Joyce. So these are some examples, kind of full circle, so you can see how that worked. We have a typo here. This is not what we're showing as a survivor. That is a spousal increase. And that is literally showing you this, right? Joyce filed at 62, and then she switched to spousal benefits later, and she received the higher of the two benefits when she did that. As soon as John filed for his, she's deemed filing. So that is when her spousal benefit was turned on, and it happened to be higher than what she was on before.